The second thing is, before we move on to talk about it's not what you say or what you do, but who you are, is I want you to think back on the speakers thus far, and I want you to think about Monday. And we use the phrase, what are you going to do come Monday? So it's wonderful, right? You get juiced when you're here. It's like, man, and I can tell you, I do a lot of traveling, I do a lot of programs, and the content that you got here is like top flight, top shelf. You're not going to find any better quality than what you have. You've touched on philosophy. Simon, a portion of the proceeds from every film here on out will be going to your institute. So, by the way, that we have many, many of these coming up. So hopefully there'll be a groundswell coming your way soon. And I lost my track. Anyway, it's not what you say or what you do, it's who you are. I want you to think about all the stuff. I know what we were talking about were the people that you've heard thus far, and what is the thing that you're going to change? Not 20 things come Monday. What is the one thing? What's the one person, and what's the one behavior or activity that you currently have that you need to go change? What is that? I want you to write it down. So think about it and let's write it down. And then come Monday, the first thing that you're doing is to implement this one thing that you've heard. Maybe it's a communication style. Maybe it's more introduction of the concept of neurology and how a correction of a subluxation impacts the neurology. Maybe it's in your analysis. Maybe it's in the exam. There were so many rich pieces of content. The next thing I want to move on to is away from content, and I want to move on to context. And I learned this from horses. And I learned this in my practice, which was, it wasn't what I was saying, because I'm not talking to a horse about a subluxation. And I'm not talking about the fee, I'm talking to the owner of the horse. And it wasn't so much what I was doing, because the owner didn't understand what I was doing. I was correcting a subluxation based on my analysis. But it's who you are. It's who you are. And some of you have got like screaming monkeys inside of you. I've talked with some of you, and you've got a screaming monkey on your back that you need to go ahead and remove and exercise in order that you get yourself free and clear in order to become a great lover in chiropractic. We have this most amazing premise, philosophy, science, and art. And if you wormhole into any aspect of that, what will be revealed to you is how on target we are within chiropractic. But you got it in bits and pieces. It takes a Simon Senzon. It takes a Komarek Institute to bring the neurology. It takes an Arnaud Bernier to teach you the finesse and the beauty of delivering an adjustment with love. And then collectively, when you step back and you look at chiropractic, what else compares? When you think about what else even comes close to something that delivers what we do. But it's you doing the delivering. It's you. And I learned this from the horse in that it wasn't what I was saying, it wasn't so much what I was doing, but it was my presence. That in order to adjust a 1,200-pound horse and correct a big, bony lock coupled with neural tension, coupled with musculoskeletal adaptation and all that goes with that, it wasn't so much the technique, but my willingness to be present with the horse in who I am. It wasn't what I was saying and what I was doing, but it was my willingness to show up. And that meant that I just had to be in my being. And it's a strange statement, but I'm asking you to learn what that means. We're going to move along here. Be the real deal. Nothing will reach a patient more deeply and profoundly than your authenticity. That is, don't be mimicking anybody here. And certainly don't be doing, I'm going to encourage you not to be doing anything that's scripted. But come from what you know. What do you know about the subluxation? What do you know about outside forces overcoming the inertial states of the body and creating a subluxated state, and state it with your truth. And when you do that, people can connect to that. When you are mimicking someone else, people can sense that in a heartbeat. It was Thoreau that said, "What you are speaks so loudly that I cannot hear what you're saying." That you go into some of these offices and the shtick that goes on is like, stop it. I'm asking you to stop it. Just be yourself. We have this amazing thing. If you don't grasp it in its entirety, I've spent 39 years, I'm not even close, but I'm a student. I study, and I study religiously, weekly. And so that you really deepen your understanding of this gift that you've been given and now you must give to the world. Do you know who you are as a chiropractor? And it's your job. It's your job as well to know this. I learned this from a guy who started a Waldorf education. And he spent 2 hours with me on the phone, and we have educators here, and I said, why is it they had just done a study that Waldorf education had surpassed all other educational processes and their students, and looking back, I think it was amazing. And I got to speak with a guy who opened 3 of these Waldorf schools throughout the United States. I said, what was it? One, how many non-negotiable principles? You don't get to morph the principles of chiropractic. The technique you get to morph, and the style and the delivery, but you don't get to mess with the premise. We have a fundamental premise. It is what it is, and you don't get to mess with that. Continuous learning. You have to become a student. You have to study. You got to go take classes. You get on Simon's program, learn about our history, and Komarek, study the neurology. Last night Liz was talking about we're doctors of the nervous system. You should know that better than a neurologist knows it. And the last one, collaboration. And we're seeing that here, and it was spoken to this morning about why was Sue Brown's work so important at this point in time? Why is the geometry of the body important? Why was cord tension and Donnie Epstein's work so incredibly valued? How did it further our fundamental premise? As to method, there are maybe 1 million and then some, but principles are few. The man who grasps principles can successfully select his own method. Stephanie, you were talking about that this morning, about I'm developing my own style of momentum and thrust. You should, because you understand the principle. And then it's your delivery, it's your art. The man who tries method ignoring principles is sure to have trouble, and you see that in this profession. That's it. Because then it's a mechanism. It's a mechanism. It's not this other thing that it can be. It's got this spiritual, non-empirical quality to it. It's got a ton of science. It's got a ton of science to it. But there's also this other quality, this otherness that you bring to the table. You must bring to the table. It's you. And you have to do your work. You've got to go do your work in peeling the onion as to what's preventing you from opening your heart. Some of you get way too much in your head, and you forget to just show up as a loving human being in relationship to the person that you're checking for subluxation. You get that right. I say this, but it's the truth. People come out of the woodwork. I stopped taking new patients. I can't take any more horses. I can't take any more new people. When you get it right, you don't have room to take care of the people that have come. It still and always will be about the subluxation. Pick for a month our philosophy. Then pick for several months the neurology, the biomechanics, the physics, the biology, the geometry, the wave dynamics, and wormhole and tie it back to chiropractic. And all of a sudden you see the largesse, the magnitude of what we do, the magnitude of what we have to offer, the magnitude of the truth, because you may have just looked at the biomechanics, but you didn't look at the neurology in depth. You didn't look at the physics in depth. You didn't look at the geometry in depth. But when you dovetail these things together, man, it's your job now to become better educated. And you must become a continuous learner. That's for the remainder of your career. Are you presenting or preaching? This is a big deal, and I have a big problem with this. Do you really know how far-reaching, forward-thinking, and deeply grounding? People are starving for what you're doing. They're starving for it. What they want is a person standing there congruently delivering the message with no BS. Honey, pay attention. It's no BS, that you're delivering the message as congruently as you can based on data and knowledge, and you present it. But you don't have to jam it down anybody's throat. You don't have to scare them into care. Chiropractic makes sense. It's your job to deliver that message. How is your message landing? We already touched on that earlier this morning. Is it a positive message or fear-based? No need to scare anybody into care. None whatsoever. If after presenting the philosophy, science, and art of chiropractic, your patient does not respond with OMG, I never thought about that, you need to reconfigure and reinforce your message. That I know I've hit a home run when they're like, nobody's ever told me that. So you're presenting information that it's the missing piece to their understanding, the coordination of the brain, the intelligence of the body, the transmission of information throughout the system, and interference. And guess how your life's going to be once you're cleared out. Now, with a horse, they get that without me telling that story. They watched the horse and they said, whatever the horse got, I want. And I built a practice in Durango that way, in Boulder, and in Crested Butte, in Colorado, out of animal practices that built people practices, because they watched, and what you'll see on the film tonight that the producer, Sean Nipper, captured was that an animal does not know how to lie, an animal doesn't understand placebo, that when a correction is made, the normal balance of that horse, that dog, that goat is there in an instant. It's a little different with people sometimes. Why? Because the person has got a narrative they're running. Will this work? You're interfering with the relationship with the horse. It's one pure system. Make a correction, energy flows, health is restored, and a lot of other function, normal function. We're going to end with this. It takes courage to stand for truth. It does, doesn't it? When you got to stand up. You got to stand up and deliver the message, and you got to do it authentically. When people are looking at you, don't grasp it. I spent 39 years crafting my understanding. Don't expect them to get it. They maybe got through high school. Don't expect them to. Don't use big words. It's simple. But your job is to not talk down to them. Don't be condescending. Talk and deliver the message as beautifully and cleanly as you can. This is especially so when the principles and truth is being threatened and assaulted on all sides within our profession. If something is true, this is important. It has to be true at all times and in all places. It's not just true in this room, it's true planet-wise. And it's your job to take that message. It's not what you say or what you do, it's who you are. Integrity is the new currency. You have to measure your words. Don't overstate what we do. Just state clearly what it is that we're doing with as much passion and love for the profession and the person in front of you. You all know this. It's life-changing for them. So this conversation will continue a little bit tonight after the film. I hope to see all of you there. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.